What's up, YouTube? It's your boy Johnny. Thanks once again for tuning into the channel. Today's video will be a short reaction video to Thomas Sowell. It's going to excerpt from his book, Intellectuals and Race. And it's going to cover some facts that you didn't know about slavery. You know, we all have been taught that we were just stolen and put on a ship and beaten, came over here, and we just been kept as slaves, and we've been ignorant and dumb. And if you can disconnect someone from their culture, they don't know anything about themselves. And I personally don't believe in anything the public school system or the colleges nowadays teach us, because it's all in someone else's benefit. I think we can agree on that. Before the video starts, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and share the video if you like what you hear. Now I'm gonna start the video, and I'm gonna pause it here and there to put my 2 cents in.
To many people today, slavery means white people holding black people in bondage. The vast millions of people around the world who were neither white nor black, but who were either slaves or enslavers for centuries, fade out of this vision of slavery as if they had never existed, even though they may well have outnumbered both blacks and whites. It has been estimated that there were more slaves in India than in the entire Western Hemisphere. China, during the era of slavery, has been described as one of the largest and most comprehensive markets for the exchange of human beings in the world. Slaves were a majority of the population in some of the cities in Southeast Asia. At some period or other in history, as John Stuart Mill pointed out, almost every people now civilized have consisted, in majority, of slaves.
Now, if that's the case, and the idea is white supremacy, don't you think white supremacy is teaching black people that they've been slaves their whole life, while leaving at the fact that almost every group of people has been enslaved? If you wanted to paint a narrative to separate the haves and the have-nots, will you, or the lights and the darks? Just a thought.
Abraham Lincoln said, "If slavery is not wrong, nothing is wrong," he was expressing an idea peculiar to Western civilization at that time, and by no means universally accepted throughout Western civilization. What seems almost incomprehensible today is that there was no serious challenge to the moral legitimacy of slavery prior to the 18th century. Christian monasteries in Europe and Buddhist monasteries in Asia both had slaves. Even Thomas More's fictional ideal society, Utopia, had slaves. Although intellectuals today may condemn slavery as a historic evil of our society, what was peculiar about Western society was not that it had slaves, like other societies around the world, but that it was the first civilization to turn against slavery, and that it spent more than a century destroying slavery, not only within Western civilization itself, but also in other countries around the world, over the often bitter and sometimes armed resistance of people in other societies. Only the overwhelming military power of Western nations during the age of imperialism made this possible. Slavery did not quietly die out of its own accord. It went down fighting to the bitter end in countries around the world, and it has still not totally died out to this day in parts of the Middle East and Africa. It is the
China still has slaves as well.
image of racial slavery, white people enslaving black people, that has been indelibly burned into the consciousness of both black and white Americans today by the intelligentsia, and not simply as a fact about the past, but as a causal factor used to explain much of the present, and an enduring moral condemnation of the enslaving race.
Poor, silly people.
Yet two crucial facts have been filtered out of this picture. One, the institution of slavery was not based on race, and two, whites as well as blacks were enslaved. The very word slave is derived from the name of a European people, Slavs, who were enslaved for centuries before the first African was brought in bondage to the Western Hemisphere.
Now, is Thomas Sowell not more educated than every high school and college teacher here in America? Because I wasn't taught any of this in school, and I'm sure most people that have watched this video weren't taught this information either. So I ask you, why does our school system base everything about race? Why does everything on the media make it black against white, white against black? Well, now black and brown against white or whatever. If we don't study on our own, we live in a system that is creating divide, that is making us hate each other. Black, white, gay, straight, vaxxed, unvaxxed. You name it. Our our system in America is perfect at dividing people. And that's how you divide and conquer and steal a nation. I'm not gonna play too much more of this video. I will link it in the description. But I want to pose a question. If school is this wrong about slavery, what else is school this wrong about? What else have you been taught that you're walking around thinking that you know, that you got facts about, that you're absolutely 100% wrong? What did you learn from your grandparents that they learned from their mothers, that they learned from their grandparents, that you still walking around with that's wrong? This is why we got to educate ourselves. Another one of my favorite quotes by Malcolm X is, "You could be shocked how a man's whole life could change by reading one book." And there's so much information that is kept from us as men that keeps us thinking that we got to be hyper aggressive or wake up listening to this turn up music or this trap music, and that you can't tap into your higher self. Your brain don't know what color your skin is. And there's no power inside of one man that's not inside of every man. So everything you see somebody else creating, you have the potential to create something 10 times better than that. If you look inside yourself and find that creativity to express that, and if you come up with the idea, then it'll manifest into reality. But if I teach you that you can't be anything, that you've never been anything but a slave, your skin color is holding you back, and you will massively be oppressed always and forever in America. Then the quote Carter G. Woodson is, "I don't have to enslave you no more. You're going to enslave yourself." So my challenge to the American people is, let's educate ourselves, man. Let's pass some real knowledge down to the youth up under us, because my children won't walk around ever thinking their skin color has something to do with how far they can go in life. My children won't identify with slavery. There's just a lot of things that I'm not with the rest of the world. I was never a slave. My daddy was never a slave. My grandpa was never a slave. My great grandpa was never a slave. So yeah, it happened, but that's the past. And where we at right now, it's on me to hold my position down and thug it out, and then pass the torch off to my sons, and they do the same thing. I don't believe men should cry about what happened in the past. But that's just my thought. Until next time, YouTube, spread love, spread positive vibes. Don't forget to watch my other videos. Once again, subscribe to the channel if you have not. And until next time, I am out. Peace.